Now, I'm sure you guys know of Jordan Peterson. He is supposedly the free speech hero, is essentially what he is. He is somebody who supposedly is a martyr for free speech and is someone who has dedicated, the latter part of his career to upholding free speech, especially in a country that doesn't have as strong free speech laws as there are in the United States. And the country that he's in is Canada, and he's the person who said that if they if they find me, I'm not gonna pay it, and then if they're gonna throw me in jail, I'm gonna go to jail. And he said I'm not doing this. He's not gonna use the gender pronouns. So he's someone who's supposed to be a free speech warrior, essentially, as I had previously made an acronym FSW. So he's supposed to be an FSW, a free speech warrior. But as I talked about before, he attempted to sue. He legitimately attempted to sue a professor who wrote an article on Vox, basically reviewing his work. And what he tried to do is he tried to sue on grounds of libel and slander. So in the United States, has pretty really strong free speech laws. Obviously, the First Amendment is grants you the right to free speech, and there are only very minuscule amount of exceptions to that. One of them being libel, one of them being slander, one of them being direct threats of violence. So all of those are actual things that are not protected by the First Amendment. Now, I guess the suit where he tried to sue Professor Mann would have actually been in Canada. So I'm sure those obviously are not exceptions to free speech in Canada, because Canada actually has weaker free speech laws than in the United States. So what Peterson did is he had his lawyer send this letter to Professor Mann, and here I want to read a few of the statements that he said were were libel or slander. Well, they were libel. Here's one of them. It says Peterson measures himself by the size of his celebrity, the idea of winning or dominating others as an end in itself. So here's the massive question: when you claim that a statement like that is libelous, how the hell are you going to prove that in a court? In a court of law, how are you going to explain to the judge? How is the judge going to determine whether or not that is a true statement or not? Because that is something that is highly opinionated. That is something that is an opinion, and there's no way possible for a judge to objectively come to a objective decision as to whether or not that is true. Like, how could you imagine a judge deciding, is this person lying by saying that Peterson measures himself by the size of his celebrity? What? How would a judge look at a statement like that? Another one. Peterson says some really eyebrow-raising, authoritarian-sounding, and even cruel things. That was the one that was hilarious to me. Because, how's a judge going to determine whether or not what Peterson says meets the bounds for authoritarian sounding and eyebrow raising things? What? How on planet Earth is a judge going to determine whether or not that is something that is objectively true or objectively false? Because very clearly it's not something that is objectively or falsely provable in a court of law. So essentially what this guy is doing is he's trying to silence people by falsely claiming that this is libel when this is just someone's opinion. So that was the previous case that I had talked about, and they were threatening a libel suit. Now apparently this isn't the only time that he did it, and we know that he also did it. He actually filed a suit against Laurier University, and I guess that case is now ongoing. But here's something interesting. So this guy named Jesse Brown, he wrote an article, a story over on some website called Canadaland, and he got a letter, I guess prior to it going up, from Peterson's lawyer. And here's what it says. It says, "We act for Dr. Jordan Peterson and have your email of yesterday's date. The story you propose to write is libelous, recirculating untruths which have been considered and specifically dismissed by the College of Psychologists of Ontario. The baseless accusations which you are purporting to recycle have been probed, investigated, and dismissed by the relevant tribunal after full consideration. Proceeding with such a story provides credence to scurrilous allegations by a disgruntled former patient/client whose reportage has already been thoroughly rejected. The only ultimate concern, which was not specific to her, for which the college required a minor practice adjustment, was how Dr. Peterson's emails to clinical clients, particularly his auto responses, could have been handled at a time when he was first receiving it, deluge of other emails. As the attached publicly available status report highlights, his status with the college is unblemished. I suspect that you are aware of the Barrett case, which underscores the principle that internet distribution such as yours attracts significantly greater libel awards because of the worldwide access and reach of the published material, which would particularly be the case if you defame our client with his international reputation and profile. Circulating any of the information in your letter, explicitly or implicitly, will result in immediate proceedings for libel and injurious falsehood with all associated relief against you. Canada Land and all other potential defendants, including any party involved in the publication, dissemination, and distribution of the defamation. So, again, what we have here is something that it's a situation where Jordan Peterson is literally abusing these exceptions to free speech to try to protect himself from criticism, as we've seen on multiple occasions. I just showed you the other one where there were these specific statements that they outlined saying, we want you to remove these. And so it is extremely, extremely hypocritical of Jordan Peterson to claim that he is an FSW, a free speech warrior, a fighter for free speech, a soldier for free speech. Literally, essentially, he literally was pretty much acting as a martyr for free speech when he was saying that he wouldn't follow any of the rules put in place with the whole gender pronoun stuff. So, you know, the guy is literally being acting like he's a free speech martyr when in reality, what he is a massive, massive hypocrite. And someone should bring this up to him when he does his speaking gigs, especially bring up the specific statements from that the article that was written by the professor, because I'd like to see Jordan Peterson respond to why he's doing that, because it is extremely hypocritical to do that on the part of Jordan Peterson, because you're falsely claiming that it's libel when it's not actually libel. It's just something that is an opinion. It's not actually something that's written that can be proven false in a court of law. It's something that is a fucking opinion. And so when you just try to attempt to silence your critics by falsely claiming libel and slander, that is extremely unethical from all standpoints when it comes to any sort of ethics, especially on top of that when you claim to be an FSW. Because if you're claiming to be an FSW but really you're completely the opposite, well, that's kind of a problem, right? I mean, I would imagine that's kind of a problem. And again, I have to tack on the insane, massive irony here, which is that Jordan Peterson often praises, or has at least acknowledged, that the United States has stronger free speech laws. They have some pretty strong free speech laws, is what he said, in comparison to Canada. Because Canada is not as strong with their free speech laws. They have a little bit more leeway. In the United States, it's extremely, extremely difficult to actually prove things like libel, slander, defamation. A good example of a real defamation case is when Jesse Ventura, so Chris Kyle he had written the book American Sniper, and in it, he had written that he had punched Jesse Ventura because he was shit-talking the Navy SEALs. And that completely damaged his career. Like a complete falsehood absolutely mauled Jesse Ventura's career and reputation. And that is a clear example of defamation that is totally a real case of defamation. Because you're claiming something happened when in reality it didn't actually happen. So that's something that's clean cut. Not, oh, he called me authoritarian sounding. that's not actually a fucking case of defamation. That's just someone making an opinion. But the irony being that he praises the strong free speech laws of the United States, but at the same time, those suits are going to be in Canada, and those suits are going to be much easier prosecuted in Canada because they have they have more leeway when it comes to free speech. A lot of people will threaten to actually sue in different countries than any different country than the United States that they're in, because it's so much easier to actually to be able to prosecute when it's in a different country because they have more leeway than the United States. So while Jordan Peterson simultaneously praises the, extra leeway, despite, the professor and Vox who had, the article up, he doesn't want to do it in the United States. For the previous case that I talked about, he would do it in Canada. So that is a massive hypocrisy on his part. He needs to stop abusing and bullshitting and acting as if it's libel or slander, because it's not.